And welcome to Flightdeck Live. I am Tim Capper along with Cliffy D. Pine as the Alouettes go to BC. And like it is, Cliff, with death and taxes, the Owls lose in BC. I think it's the 25th straight time or something, 25 out of the last 26, something like that. In BC with an anemic 27-23 loss to the BC Lions. It is there's no really we always try to find the most positive stuff here, Cliff, when it comes to these things, but man, this week the BC games are so hard to do because unfortunately, as I mentioned out on social media, since 1982, Cliff, since BC Place opened, the Alouettes are a grand total of 5-26. They're garbage. The Alouettes are pure garbage out there. And I joke, and I made this joke last year. I'm going to say it again also. Can we just either A, let's just forfeit the game, or B, let's just take away let's take this game off the schedule, because this is just an utter embarrassment. Utter embarrassment once again, where no matter the history, no matter the head coach, they say all the right things. It's the exact same result. And that's the way it was tonight. Just the stuff that this year that has continued and it's no matter how good this team is, Cliff, they're just pure garbage in BC.
There's the expression, something in the water. Is there something in the water or something in the air or something in the overall environment when it comes to being in British Columbia that the Alouettes just can't do it? I mean, whether it's a tightly contested game or like this one, let's call it what it was, a blowout. The Alouettes just can't get it done in BC. Even more troubling because the Grey Cup this year is at BC Place. And I guess if nothing else, the Alouettes at least got a chance to see the facilities where they, we hope they'll be playing at in November, but are we just going to see the same result? Because let's not forget the Alouettes did play a Grey Cup in BC Place back in 2005. They almost won that one, but maybe it is true. Maybe this, I'm not one that believes in curses, obviously. I think it's stupid. Whether, I don't care what situation calls for, there is no such thing as curses. That's just made up baloney. But there has to be some sort of divine intervention or some sort of, when it comes to the Alouettes playing in British Columbia, they just don't know how to win. As you said, doesn't matter the coach, doesn't matter the players, doesn't matter the popcorn vendors. I don't care what's going on. You can almost pencil it as an L almost immediately. When I saw the calendar too this year, I remember thinking, well, my first thought is automatically, that's a loss. Not to mention the fact that the Alouettes did play a game earlier this week, which I thought was cruel. I mean, it's bad enough you have to make this team go and play out in BC, but to do it like 5 days after playing already, like, that's ridiculous. Like, I really don't get the schedule makers who decided that was a good idea. Like, I mean, what did you expect? I mean, what did you expect of the outcome of this match? Really? I mean, it boggles the mind. I really wish the league would come out and, just say something about that. But obviously they're not going to. Or it's going to be more of Randy Ambrosie's, answering a question without answering a question, talking out of both sides of his mouth and part of out of his ass as well. But, that's just what it is. I mean, hate it or love it, that's what it is.
Yeah, and yeah, it's people will say, well, look what Ottawa did. But Ottawa stayed in the same province, was getting blown out, and then just a brain fart by Toronto in the late in the fourth quarter almost gave the game up. Sure, yeah, they went on the same amount of days. I don't care. I mean, it's.
Let's not forget, too, Toronto and Hamilton also went out. So you can't even use the excuse of 3 different time zones having to travel and all that jazz. I mean, they found a way to win BC Place. How come the Alouettes can't?
Yeah, exactly. If you happen to be viewing us live, please chime in, whether you're watching us over on X, watching us on Facebook, or watching us on YouTube. Give us a like on YouTube, but also chime in. We want to know what you're thinking. Because again, this like clockwork, no matter the time of the year, the Owls lose at BC. So,
You know what? Let's switch things up a little bit here. Let's give props to our man Vernon Adams. He's been through it this year. I mean, he was playing outstanding football to start for the BC Lions, got hurt, essentially lost his job due to injury, which shouldn't have ever happened, but it did in this instance. Nathan Rourke comes back to the BC Lions. The hype train gets behind him right away, and it was almost like VA was like an afterthought. And this was his opportunity to remind everybody that, hey, I'm a pretty damn good quarterback as well. And he did the thing. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal. He was the Vernon Adams we've come to know and love. It's unfortunate that he feels like he has to do that against the Alouettes, but okay, I get it. He's a competitor. He's a gamer. I would expect nothing less from VA to come out and play absolutely phenomenal football at the most important time, which for the BC Lions is right now, to be playing outstanding football. There's no question they had to finish. This was their last game, regular season game of 2024. They will be going on the road. The only way they're going to be able to play a game at BC Place again is if they make it to the Grey Cup. So they were extra motivated tonight, I think, to finish the regular season strong and wait to see whether they're going to be going to Winnipeg or Saskatchewan to be playing their next game. Whereas Montreal, I really got a lot of the vibes of, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm just here because I have to be here. You know what I mean? Like that sort of momentum. And I'm sure Jason Moss will dispute that 100%, as I fully expect him to. But really, the tone, the energy, that was really the vibes I got from this game more than anything else. Was that they're just here because they have to be here. So I'm guessing it's not so simple as you can't just forfeit the game and just say, you know what, we already played this week. We're tired. We're in a playoff. We're going to be in the playoffs, or we cannot afford any injuries. We cannot afford anything bad to happen to this team. We're just going to stay home and take the L. Unfortunately, I guess you can't do that. I guess there's rules in the league that don't allow for that to happen. So yeah, you go out there and you just do everything you can not to get hurt, and whatever happens.
Cody's back at starting for the game. Starting under center for this game, after meeting the team in BC after coming back with him being off a week because of his wife's giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on Cody? Some were saying, well, maybe Davis should have just gotten this start. I mean, we already knew that both quarterbacks were going to get some reps this week, and it kind of played out exactly how I was hoping it was going to. Each would get a half.
Maybe that was by design, in the sense that, knowing full well what the history is for the Alouettes at BC Place, maybe it was almost kind of like to protect Davis Alexander, because right now he is undefeated as a starter in the Canadian Football League. If he were to get to start tonight with how they played, that would have been his first loss. Maybe as a confidence thing, maybe because Cody Fajardo's already played. He's a veteran. He's already played. He's won and lost at BC Place. I don't think that really matters to him, as well as the idea of, okay, this is still his football team, and he's got to get back into it too. He's got to get essentially ready for the playoffs. So this is a chance for him to do that. But because he starts, he's unfortunately credited with the loss. So I wonder if that was just a bit of consideration as far as whether or not Davis Alexander should have got the start for this game.
Yeah, and as the problem is, though, I think we understand that Cody has been off a couple of weeks, stuff like that. I mean, the team really didn't get to practice at all this week, obviously, because they had to come over. They had that one short practice on Thursday. Yep. And unfortunately, when it came to Cody, it was consistent Cody in that first quarter. Once again, utter shambles. And this is becoming, unfortunately, the norm for the Alouettes. No matter who they're playing, where they're playing, how many days of rest they have, their first quarters have been absolutely atrocious. Usually under Cody Fajardo. Recently, not under Davis Alexander. Something has to give. I don't we haven't seen what coach has said yet, obviously, to his team post game, but it is just a matter of how much more. I understand, and by the way, let me get this clear. Yes, this is Cody's team. I'm not questioning that.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not questioning that. But how much more until maybe a change has to be made? Because if the Owls get into this type of situation, whoever they may be playing in the Eastern Final, which in my opinion will most likely be Toronto, in my opinion, at a 17-0 deficit, you have to score in the first quarter. You cannot come up with one first down again. And that's been the constant thing for the Alouettes have gone through over the past, it's at least the last 5-6 weeks. And it's embarrassing with the wealth of riches that we have. Maybe something, what has been talked about in other media circles is something not 100% correct with Cody since he's come back from his hamstring injury. I mean, yes, we saw he ran tonight, looked good, but it can't be just that the team lost Tyson Philippot. It can't be just that the team lost for a while Austin Mack, and as we know, he didn't play tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to give. And we know the run game has been atrocious. As much, much to our chagrin, because we know how good Walter Fletcher is, which also, by the way, didn't play tonight. Mm-hmm. So what would have to give? This team has to start scoring in the first quarter, period.
You're right. This team has to start setting the tone, and they seem to be able to do it against, I guess, inferior competition. But I mean, it's not like it was in 2023 where you felt like there was tiers of teams, right? Like you had your top three tier, the top three teams, everybody in the middle, and then sorry to First District folks, Edmonton, basically at the bottom of the scrap heap. It's not that narrative that the Alouettes had last year of they're good enough to beat the teams that they're better than, but not good enough to beat the teams that are better than them. It can't be about that. And with the Alouettes being unable to get things going to start the game, we keep talking about how they need to set the tone, and they're not setting the tone. They're playing catch up, or they're trying to go tit for tat with their opponent. And some opponents you can do that with, and some you can't. And BC, as I said, was obviously motivated enough tonight to win in front of their hometown crowd. Vernon Adams was obviously motivated enough to beat his former team. All those narratives, there's something to be said for that, because that's exactly what happened tonight. Why Montreal just can't seem to get it going right away, it's not such an easy answer, clearly, because I'm struggling to try and understand and comprehend why it's been like this, why the play calling is so vanilla, why this defense can't seem to get off the field. I mean, there's so many question marks right now, and at this point of the year, you shouldn't have any question marks. Your identity should be set in stone, and it's not. This team, I still think, is a very good football team. I don't feel they're elite. I don't feel they are world beaters. Like they don't have that same FU mentality that they had last year, as they were scraping and struggling to show that they are who they say they were. This year, I see a lot of coasting. I see a lot of resting on laurels, and it's a little bit disturbing to me, because I know this team can be a lot better than that, and they're simply not.
Now, I will, this is full transparency, because I'm going to talk about Cody. In 2 of the 3 starts that before, when Cody was hurt originally, Davis did not score a single point in the first quarter. Okay, 2 of the 3 games. Okay, that's. I just wanted to be fully transparent. Since Cody has been back in the 6 games that he has started, Cliff, the Alouettes have averaged 2.8 points per first quarter in those 6 games. 2.8 points. Shut out 3 times.
Wow.
I mean, and we've seen the stats. We've seen the stats. I mean, it's something has have to give because sooner or later this one, obviously you need to win in November. Something has to give. They need to come out like gangbusters next week because I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised after after seeing a potential issue rise tonight, which I will talk about in a couple of seconds. I did tweet about it. We already did tweet about it on X. Is that I think Davis will get the start next week. I think Cody will get some reps, but won't get that many, or maybe similar to what it is now. And I'll say that. Okay, I'll just go and say what it is right now. So everybody saw the body slam that Dominic Davis took in that second quarter, right before they were about to score. By the way, I swear there should have been penalty, but anyways,
Never mind that. This is another prime example of overthinking and outcoaching yourself. Just fall forward.
yeah,
Why is
I
that
know.
so effing difficult?
Davis has done
What?
that. Dominic has done that a couple of times this year already. I agree.
Yes, and I don't know if that's him going rogue. I don't know if that's the actual play call is for him to roll out and try to. When you're that close and you need to put points on the board, just fall forward.
Yeah, I agree.
Why
By
are
the
you
way,
trying to reinvent the wheel? And again, I would love to know, was that his call to make? I don't think so. I don't think he's I don't think he's in a position to call his own number like that. I mean, I really don't. So if that's the play call, and this hasn't worked at all, why are you doing it? I mean, we saw that at home. I forget who it was. I think it was against BC, if I'm not mistaken, at home, that Dominique Davis was so close to scoring and got stymied like that, and even knocked for a loss. And yet you see it again. I mean,
yeah,
I really don't get this overthinking of things. Just fall forward.
yeah. Now, being at that, and this is where I noticed this. Obviously, this was the second half. It was confirmed to me tonight by Joey Alfieri during their post game show because I had asked a couple of people prior to that. The Alouettes were going with 2 quarterbacks only in that second half. Dominic Davis, I don't know if nobody noticed, was right near the end of the third 3-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Dominic Davis was standing next to Jason Moss and standing next to Cody Fajardo in civvies. The question is, what is going to be the nature of his injury? Because I don't now. I know. I watch the English. I watch TSN. I know you watch RDS. Nothing was mentioned about Dominic Davis, was it?
Actually, I watched it on TSN, but
Oh, did you?
yes.
But
Yes. Sometimes I do watch it on RDS, but tonight I watched it on TSN, and
so
yeah,
that's an interesting wrinkle going forward. Plus, also losing a guy that we've been hyping up, struggled for the beginning of the year, hyped up quite a well, has recently. We lost Josh Donovan, and it looked bad. It really did.
yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate because yes, he's someone that's really looked very good in replacing Jamar McGlosser, who, in an ironic sort of twist of fate, was reactivated and ended up replacing Josh Donovan in the game. I mean, I don't want to call it a full circle moment because it's not about that, but I mean, it's the one goal that this team should have had was to get out of BC healthy,
Yeah.
and they didn't do it. I mean, and I'm not saying losing Joshua Donovan or Dominique Davis are going to cripple the rest of your season, but still, these are two players that are still key elements in their own right, and just unfortunate stuff.
Yeah, the Dominic Davis one I think really has a lot more ramifications than the other one than Josh Donovan does, even though it's bad losing Josh Donovan. Is we saw at the end of the game, Davis Alexander stayed in for those short yardage plays, and look what ended up happening. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, if Dominic Davis is going rogue, like he has been, instead of going forward, like it occurred we're going to get the exact same results as occurred 3 times tonight.
Mhm.
Is that they're just not going to do anything. They're 0 for 3. The Owls should have had something. They should have been on the boards way before the fourth quarter. Way before the fourth quarter. They had two good shots in that first half. But
Yeah,
came
and
away with zilch.
Yeah, and I admire Jason Moss for going for it on third down instead of settling for a field goal. I mean, the old Jason Moss would have been happy to just, take points wherever you can get them. But yeah, it was just, once again, just a lot of overthinking. And it's so weird because, as I said, most of the play calling tonight was very basic, very vanilla, conservative even. I remember we used to make the joke about AC standing for always conservative, and that's what it was tonight as far as play calling goes. But yeah, to not come away with points in that first half is troubling to say the least. I mean, that regardless of what goes on at BC when the Alouettes are there, I mean, like I was getting 2011 vibes, and we talked about that on the podcast earlier this week. And if you folks didn't bother googling it, and I'm kind of, if you didn't, more power to you. I'm just gonna bust it right here. Back in 2011, the Alouettes lost 46-1 to the BC Lions. And if you're trying to look for a positive during that first half, at halftime, I mentioned to Tim that, well, if we want something positive, in 2011 it was 24-1 for BC, whereas this game it was 17-0 at the half. So progress, something, I guess.
I guess so.
I mean, and they at least tripled their production from 2011 in this game. So yeah, hey,
yeah, I know.
It's like that.
Yeah, I know. Second time tonight, you'll fix it. If I got to kick you out, I'll bring you back in. There you go.
There we go.
Let's just get the sad stuff out of the way. Cody's half went 9 of 7 for 67 yards. That's absolutely amazing. Davis's second half. I'm being
You said 9 of 7. You mean 7 of 9?
Yeah, 7 of 9. and we're not talking about the Star Trek character. And then Davis in the second half won 11 of 16, also for 67 yards.
How does that work? I mean,
I don't know. But the thing is that Vernon had over almost 200 yards after the first quarter, had 2 touchdowns after the first quarter.
And he was dropping dimes too. Listen,
Yeah.
we gotta give our man some props. I mean,
yeah, we can. I again, it's VA took advantage of this situation. Alouettes did the Alouettes in BC. Rushing wise, STE started. Sean Thomas Arlington started. He ended up finishing the game with 17 yards, but the leading rusher was first time CFL starter Stevie Scott III. He had 7 attempts, 7 rushes for 33 yards.
Damn near scored a touchdown too. I mean, that's a good showing for the rookie. I mean, his first chance to get some action in with Fletch being given the night off. I mean, STE getting reps is obviously important as well, but for Stevie Scott to come in, looked extremely solid. And it's so funny. Like, this is the time of year where the training camp superstars, the guys that come out of nowhere and end up on the practice roster. This is their time to shine because, if they're playing, that means one of two things. One, your team's doing really well and they need to rest their starters, or the team's doing really bad and it's like, well, let's go out there, let's give them some reps, try to see if they can earn a job for next year. In this case, it's the former. It's because the Alouettes have been really good, and now it's a chance for a guy like Stevie Scott to show what he can do in relief. So kudos to him. He is making the most of his opportunity. So that was encouraging. I was pretty pleased to see his output.
Yeah. Davis Alexander came away with also 28 yards. Davis did well tonight too. What's funny though, and this is what kind of made me question it. He came up again. Remember that one week where he got hurt, had to come back in because he got walloped, came back in, did another slide, and it seemed like he hurt his hip. He looked like he hurt his hip again tonight. It's something on that slide, and I was like, okay, then where's Dominic Davis? And lo and behold, that's what we saw. That Dominic Davis had been on the bench for the second half.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, in that case, who's the emergency quarterback?
That's a very good question.
I mean, yeah. Do I think Cody would have come back in? Yes. But who would have backed? Who would have been number 3?
Gosh,
Yeah,
who
no,
could be? Didn't Tyler Snead play a little bit of quarterback when he was in high school? I mean, he'd be super
possibly.
short. I think he'd be the shortest quarterback in Alouettes history.
Might have been one of the wide receivers.
I mean, that sometimes that's the way to go, because especially if they get involved with gadget plays and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
For the for the receivers, Cliff for the night, leading receiver was Tyler Snead. 3 receptions on 5 targets. From there, that's it's funny. Like Alouette, this to me, I'm something that I can actually smile about. Cliff,
Mm.
Stevie Scott out of the backfield had 20 yards. I can be happy about this because it shows consistency of one shape or form when it comes to Alouette running backs out of the backfield.
Mm.
Even though it was Stevie's technically his first CFL game, he was able to fall right into the place that Walter Fletcher does in this type of situation. And KGG was also second with 27 yards. Obviously, we will go into a little bit more detail because obviously we, got to give everybody their props when we had the show on Wednesday. So stay tuned.
Yeah, let's talk quickly about the defense. So there was a couple of bright spots there.
Oh, yes, sir.
Wesley Sutton, another pick, his second in a row. I mean, that's pretty outstanding right there. So props to him for that.
Bev thinking he got one or trying to sell one.
Bev, no, he did have it.
No. Another one. The other one along the sideline.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. So, but Tyrese Beverett with 1 interception for sure, almost 2. But I mean, he's just making his case once again for most outstanding player for the Alouettes, and damned if he's not going to end up getting it, because, like I said, as much as this defense is being maligned over the past few weeks, I mean, he's still consistent. He's still doing things the right way. Like, he's still playing absolutely phenomenal football. I mean, it's got to be tough for him because you got guys like Darnell Sankey and Jeffrey Conte Arku that are making noise in their own right, but at the same time, like, these guys I feel are working extra hard because a lot of the things just aren't. It feels like everybody's attacking the middle more than anything else, and when these guys, especially when these guys are blitzing, that leaves things wide open. That's why you're seeing a lot of these dink and dunk passes work against the Alouettes, because when the front 7 comes rushing, that leaves so much open space that the secondary are kind of caught in between of trying to keep up with the receivers and not trying to let anyone go deep, and at the same time trying to cover that middle ground, if you will. So it's definitely a tough job being a linebacker in the Canadian Football League, especially for the Montreal Alouettes. But Bev, by and large, has been playing absolutely phenomenal football. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can't forget the Bev. Never.
And before we talk about the other person who had a great game today, at least tonight's broadcasting team actually brought it up that there could be 2 defensive players up for the MOP. And it's well-deserved talk because despite how well, I mean, Bo Levi breaking 5,000 yards this year, there's no way that you have a team under 500 that is going to win the MOP. It's not going to happen.
I don't know. I mean, and it's funny. TSN, the panel had this discussion last night, and you talk about it's not a team award. So should a player be faulted because their team isn't in the playoffs? I mean, it's Bo that's putting up the stats. So I mean, you could definitely make the argument for him to be MOP coming out of the East, simply because, despite the fact that the Tiger Cats did not play very well this year, he definitely racked up a lot of stats. I mean, it's good for him, but again, this is an individual award. It's not a team award. So whether the Tiger Cats were the best team out of the East or the worst, it's still Bo himself that's making all these stats happen. That's putting the numbers on the board. So I mean, he definitely is in consideration. There's no question. But I mean, if the thought is to give it to a team that at least makes the playoffs, then yeah, you got to go with Tyrese Beverett because he really has been that guy all season long, and he's just been so good this year. I mean, this defense has gone through its ups and downs, but I mean, Tyrese Beverett has been money every time he steps on the field.
He's been very consistent. 100%. 100%. And a guy that you and I have been high on for a while, just because that really hasn't gotten a chance to do anything because of it just seems like the injuries at the wrong time have really derailed him. Tyrell Richard gets his first sack of the year.
Oh yeah. And listen,
and only sack of the game, by the way, by either team.
That's incredible all by itself. I mean, but also too, that speaks to the ability of both I guess all three quarterbacks be able to get rid of the ball as quickly as they can. I mean, there wasn't too much holding on to the ball unless it was Cody or Davis going for a run, or even VA. I think also got a couple of rushing yards as well. But yeah, shout out to Tyrell Richards. I mean, he definitely is going to get the chance to show what he can do, and I'm thrilled for him. I definitely think he deserves every opportunity. I mean, as you said, the injury bug has bitten him so many times that I kind of feel like he's an injury buffet. I mean, for the bugs to come and feast upon. I mean, the poor guy really truly can't catch a break, but when he's on the field, he delivers every time. So I'm thrilled for him. He did it tonight. I mean, being able, we don't want to see VA get hurt also too, but at the same time, you got to feel good for Tyrell to be able to get that sack and at least help contribute towards this team at a time when they truly do need everybody to step up. I mean, this is definitely the time where everybody on the team, whether you're a starter or a backup or what have you, everybody's got to be able to contribute in their own way. And sure enough, Tyrell Richards, who's doing a great job on special teams, he was able to come in tonight at linebacker and do some pretty outstanding stuff as well.
Yeah. Concerning stat for the Alouettes is again their second down conversion, 8 of 20, for only 38%. It's time of possession. I think it started to even out considering what happened at the end of the game. End of the beginning of the second half. Really, I think time of possession really changed, which I was happy to see, considering that it just seemed like it was going to be, same old type of thing. Props to James Letcher for an amazing return in the first half.
Had a couple of nice returns actually that put the Alouettes in decent position. So I mean, he too is another of those guys that been consistent throughout the year. Every once in a while, it gets a chance to break one off, and it was about this time last year that he really started to catch fire. So I'm hoping that next week against Winnipeg and into the Eastern Final, he finds that lane once again and manages to take one to the house. I think that'd be something that he's very good at. So I'd like to see him to be able to have the opportunity to do that even more. But even something as simple as getting across midfield and just putting the Alouettes in the opposing team's side of the field, that alone is a victory in and of itself. So, as long as Letcher is able to keep doing that on a consistent basis, things are gonna work out okay. It's just tonight's a rough night. Tonight was a game to forget for sure. This is not going to, like, when the Alouettes do their hopefully a championship DVD or a documentary or what have you. I don't think a whole lot of time is going to be spent on this particular game.
No, Alouettes get outgained, Cliff, by 310 yards, 526 to 216. It was kind of, at the beginning of at the end of the first half, it was, you kind of knew. You kind of knew it was almost, it's kind of, again, the Owls in BC, story plays out like normal when it came to them playing the Lions. So
we just petitioned the league that Have that be the first game, the first regular season game, be out in BC. Get it over with.
It would be nice. Yeah,
So
going
the
out.
Alouettes, and
Yeah,
if the Alouettes start 1-0 or 0-1, then they start 0-1. So be it. You know what?
exactly.
We don't need a perfect season. But this nonsense of playing Thanksgiving Monday and then playing again that same Saturday the same week, like literally two different, like both the easternmost team at the westernmost, like, is baloney. It is absolute baloney that they do that.
Remember that used to be the BC used to come here for Thanksgiving, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so.
And I know as I discussed earlier, you can't really use the time zone thing as an excuse, and I'm not. Because as I said, Toronto and Hamilton were able to find ways to win at BC Place. For me, it's more about the fact that it's a short week, 2 games in the span of 5 days, and such a discrepancy. If it was like, and we have seen that in the past where Ottawa would come play Thanksgiving, and then the Saturday the Alouettes would go to Ottawa. That's not so bad. I'm talking about going across the country to play what's essentially a meaningless game for the Alouettes. I mean, it's
the last road game of the year too.
Yeah.
Uh,
But again, we're not going to cry over spilled milk. It is what it is. It's just, I sincerely hope that when the schedule comes out in late December of this year, we look at it and hopefully it's done just a little bit better in mind. I mean, considering that the Alouettes were Grey Cup champions, you'd think that they would have been given a little bit of leeway as far as that goes. But I mean, well, the fact that they couldn't even have the first game at Percival Molson Stadium, we know the reasons why, obviously, but still, the disrespect is very real as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, second game this year, but they went into it on 5 days rest. Second time this year. Oh, and by the way, they've lost both those games.
You don't say. I mean,
I know. I tell you. Want to remind everybody that we're proud to welcome one of our new affiliate sponsors in Royal Retros, where if you go over to Royal Retros and use the code Flightdeck at checkout, you will save 15% off your order, as shown down below. You don't need to have a time machine in order to get all that sweet retro merch from many leagues, many baseball leagues, football, you name it. They have it over at Royal Retros. Again, Flightdeck at checkout and save 15% off. Also, just as a reminder, we'll mention it on the show anyways, on Wednesday, the meet and greet will be taking place this weekend, this Saturday. This coming weekend, this coming Saturday. So a week from today, it'll be happening over at the stadium over at Mount Royal Park between 12:30 and 2. So come by and say hey. If you have your T-shirt, your Cartoon Bird 56 T-shirt, wear it. But also a reminder too, if you don't have one, you can buy one over at flightdeckgear.ca, or we do have a couple of limited giveaways for the meet and greet. So we're looking forward to seeing you then.
Absolutely. It's going to be the last regular season game. Obviously, the Alouettes will have one more game to be played at Percival Molson Stadium this year, but it's so funny. Like, I kind of felt like they were going to take a lackadaisical approach to this game, and also maybe even the game against Winnipeg, because really, truly, the Alouettes themselves have nothing to play. I didn't feel like they had anything to play for. It was more about Winnipeg having that urgency to win, because ultimately it's going to decide whether or not Winnipeg's going to host the Western final or the Western semifinal. And the Alouettes were just going to show up, play their game, and hopefully not get hurt as they get ready for the Eastern final. But I think based off of the performance tonight, I think you're going to see kind of like a preseason game, in the sense that you're going to see the starters play, and they're going to play the kind of football that we expect them to play. But then second half is going to be, I don't want to say the backups necessarily, but I guess for lack of a better term, I'll say the backups. I think we're going to not see as many of the starters in action in the second half. Just for the simple fact is the last thing you want to do at this point. I mean, it's bad enough that Joshua Donovan and Dominique Davis got hurt in this game. God forbid somebody else gets hurt as a result of what is essentially a nothing game for the Alouettes. And I'm sorry. I know they say there's no such thing as a meaningless game, and to an extent that's true, but at the same time, the Alouettes really have nothing to play for. I mean, whether they go 12-5-1 this year or 13-4-1 this year changes absolutely nothing. I just want to see this team stay healthy, do what they need to do. A win would be nice. Don't get me wrong, especially as they go into a bye week and wait to see if they're going to play the Red Blacks or the Argos at the Eastern Final. I just want this team to stay healthy and, as much as possible, remind everybody that they truly are a dominant team, that they have the capability of being a dominant team. The past couple of weeks, since Labor Day, essentially, this team has not looked dominant, and nothing's really changed, to tell you the truth, other than Joshua Nantwi getting traded to the BC Lions, who, by the way, actually had some pretty nice plays this evening against his former team.
He did.
So props to him for that. But I want to see this Alouettes team play the kind of football that we know they can play. And I don't want to see it in spurts either. I want to see this team be consistent and be consistently good. Because Winnipeg, they've got a lot to play for at this point. They obviously want to host the Western Final. They're going to be motivated to play. They're going to put their best foot forward. They're going to bring their stars. They're going to do everything they can to win in Montreal and host the Western Final. I just want the Alouettes to come and compete and play well and just not dog it. And I hate to say it, but I really feel like they dogged it tonight, and I don't want to see that again. And especially not in front of what will hopefully be another sellout crowd at Percival Molson Stadium. I mean, I definitely think this Alouettes team needs to come out and play the game that we know that they can play. Hopefully get the win, and just, if only for the reason to go into the playoffs with just a little bit of momentum, get rested, get right, and then host the Eastern Final.
Yep, exactly. If you're our first-time audio listener, brand new thing for Flightdeck Live, welcome. That will be available. It'll be available soon over on our main link over at wherever you can find our podcasts at. Trying something new. Other than that, any last things, Cliff, before we go? Because obviously this is a game where we want to forget about. It's probably one of the. I mean, I think we knew. It's funny. You try to go into every game with the positivity that you're going to come out with a win, but in the history that the Alouettes have had at BC Place, it's almost very hard to get up for this game, no matter what. I mean, with all honesty, I wouldn't buy a ticket for a game at BC Place with the Alouettes right now. So I'd rather stay at home and just, go from there. But any last words?
Yeah, just like I said, tonight was unfortunate. There's a lot to learn from it, believe it or not. I mean, there was definitely some positives, but unfortunately a lot of negatives. I mean, it is what it is. That's all we can say at this point. I mean, let's just hope that this is the last time the Alouettes lose in 2024. That's all I'll say. Hopefully this is the last loss going forward. They just come out, start playing the kind of football that we saw earlier this year, the kind of football we know this team can play, and just show that they truly are the reigning, defending, undisputed Grey Cup champions, and that they're going to do it again this year, even if the game is being played at BC Place. Here's hoping that somehow, some way, they figure out the way to stop this malaise. I guess there's no other way to put it but malaise at BC Place. So that's me knocking on wood, hoping that everything's going to work out okay.
Exactly. So the Alouettes lose to the BC Lions by the score of 27-3, fall to 12-4-1, but have the season home finale coming up this week. Next week versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So we'll see you on the show on Wednesday, but stay tuned for our socials for any other information that may come across. So we appreciate every single one of you for joining us for Flightdeck Live, as we do every week. And again, for those who didn't hear the show this week, I know we didn't have the show the Flightdeck Live last on Thanksgiving. Again, I want to thank everybody who wished me well in getting better. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Both my wife and I are almost there, and I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the thoughts. It really meant quite a bit. So, so we will talk to you on Wednesday. So for everybody here at Flight Deck Live, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We'll talk to you soon.